Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to see all of y'all here, and glad to be here today with all of y'all and the millions that are watching on the live stream currently. The past few times I've came up here, I've talked about college basketball, and I heard this morning that apparently there's a bet going around about what I'm going to talk about today. So it's not college basketball, I can tell you that much. Instead, we're going to be talking about bass fishing. I love bass fishing. I did it as a little kid. My dad used to take me all the time. Didn't do it much as a teenager, but I've really gotten into it the past couple of years. It's just fun. Catching a fish is fun. It doesn't matter if it's a big fish. Doesn't matter if it's a big fish that barely fits in the camera, a small fish that you have to zoom in on to be able to see, or if it's just a unique fish, one that looks different than anything else you've caught, and anything in between. Every fish that you catch is fun. So, I love fishing, and I love it so much more than I do hunting. Deer hunting specifically. I did it a lot as a teenager, and it was fun, but it was just looking back on it, looking now, if I had to pick, it'd be fishing all the way. Because with hunting, it's an all-day event. You're waking up at 4 a.m., getting out into the woods at 5:30, and you're in the woods. Besides the lunch break, you're in the woods until 5 p.m. at night, or whenever it's dark. And it's guaranteed to be cold, just about. And it's even worse when it's not cold because you pack for cold weather and then you're out there sweating. And with deer hunting, deer can show up at any time. You always have to be paying attention. The second that you're looking at your phone or fall asleep, that's going to be when a deer comes out and you're going to miss it. And the biggest thing to me probably is that you're sitting there waiting for a deer, and there's nothing you can actively do to increase your chance of seeing a deer. Once you're in the woods, you're there. It's not up to you. Fishing, on the other hand, is the complete opposite story. You can fish for 30 minutes, you could fish for all day. It's your choice, and you have just as much chance of catching a fish for each one if you plan properly. Bass season is all year round. Deer season basically end in November through January. So you get to pick when you want to go fishing. You can pick the hot days, the cold days, the sunny days, the cloudy days. You get to choose. Also, fish have peak times that they're going to bite. Early morning, maybe a snack in the middle of the day, and then in the evening. So you can plan around that to be able to increase your chances of catching a fish. And my favorite thing about it is you can actively do things to increase your chance of catching fish. And fishing to me is really fun because it's almost like a chess match. You're trying to decipher what the fish want that day. It can be different every single day. So you're out there, you're trying something, that's not working, you switch to another bait, you try something different, you go to a different spot. You are actively trying to figure out what's going to get that fish to bite. You can't do that with hunting. What you can do with hunting is basically use these products that are listed up here to eliminate your scent, make it to where the deer can't see you. You can wear camouflage to mask yourself, and you can pick a good spot to where you're going to be obscured from the deer. After that, you can't do anything. You can use calls, but you have just as much chance of scaring a deer off as you do of attracting them. So you use all this, you do all the preparation, you're in the woods, that's it. All the preparation that you've done before, that's as good of a chance as you're going to get. The best you can do is the same amount of deer show up as if you weren't there at all. Sometimes that's just zero. There's been times that I've hunted every weekend for 2 months and not seen a single deer. It just happens. Fishing, on the other hand, you get to choose. So let's look at a few baits. This one's really popular. It's called a Senko. It's basically a worm. The little squares on the right, those are all the colors. There's 60 of them. 60 different colors for different conditions, different bodies of water, they work better. So you have 60 different options just with this one bait to try to decipher what that fish wants that day. Let's say you don't want to use this bait. 130 different worms, all fish a little bit different, all different sizes, and who knows how many color options there are in all of those. So let's say you try all of them and none of those are working. Don't worry, you can go to creature baits. They imitate a lizard, a crawfish, or some other abomination. And there's 88 of those. All different colors, all different sizes, all fish differently. Let's say you try all those. Don't worry, you got spinner baits. I think 80 of those, if I'm not mistaken. All different colors for the skirts, all different color for the blades. Blades are different sizes, different types of blade, put off more vibration than others, which is good in some situations and bad in others. Different weights, so they fall differently. All sorts of different ways to approach this just with these types of baits. You try all those, none of those work. Don't worry, 230 different crankbaits. Target different depths of the water, some very shallow, basically top water, some 30 feet deep. All different colors, different sizes, some wobble extremely wide, some basically don't wobble at all, some rattle, they make a vibration, others are silent. You try all those, every single color, they don't work. Well, you got like 280 or 230 different hard baits. Different colors, different sizes, used for different conditions, targeting different depths of water. All these are your weapons of choice. You can use them in your arsenal. Now, why am I talking about this? Is it to try to convince my wife that I need more tackle? Yes, but that's also just hopefully a bonus. Before we get into it, let's look at the mentions of fish in the Bible. So the first one that we have, let me flip to my sheet, is Matthew chapter 4, verse 19. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. The next mention is Matthew chapter 13, verse 47. I believe the note in my Bible said that it's the parable of the net or something. This is Jesus talking. "Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish." So here's Jesus talking about us, humans, as fish, and also as fishermen. So, a few questions today. If this works. In bringing people to Christ and to the church, are we hunting or are we fishing? Are we? And then after a little brief summary from me, we'll get into examples of ways that we can fish for people. But are we hunting? Have we done all the preparation that we can and we're just sitting there waiting for a deer to show up? Get lucky, that 1 in a million chance that everything aligns perfectly and they're right there and we can just be like, "Hey, come to church." Or are we fishing for people, using everything in our arsenal changing it up if something doesn't work, not being afraid to change it up, using every single bait that we have, fishing it different ways. What you can do, you can fish a bait 10 different ways, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I think we need to be fishing for people instead of actively hunting. And when trying to think of examples of hunting, the one that popped into my head when I was thinking of this sermon was the Harvest Festival. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes hunting is the best for the situation. And I believe with the Harvest Festival, that's the case. A lot of foot traffic, setting up a booth outside, getting our name out. That was the best there. But we could also send some people out to fish at the same time. But we need to be doing more than just hunting. Examples of a way that we can fish for people. I think one way to fish for people is the food box giveaway. Now, it's not the main goal of that. The main goal is to help people that are in need, that are hungry, that don't know where their next meal's coming from. But in a way, a side goal of it is that we are fishing for people. If we can get someone that's needy food to also join the church and become a member of this church and be led to Christ, that's a good side goal. The important thing I want to mention, though, is I've watched plenty of videos of fishermen talking about strategies on YouTube and things like that. And multiple of them have talked about times that they've been in a fishing tournament and it's tough, can't get a bite, nobody's caught anything, but you can't leave, it's a tournament. So they would switch strategies to where they would spend 5 to 10 minutes on a cast. They would change to a different bait, they'd throw it out there, let it hit bottom, and they would just drag it a few inches, and then pause, 10, 15 seconds, maybe even longer, and then drag it another few inches, and just repeat this until either they get a bite or they get back to the boat with their lure, and then they cast it out again. If things are that tough, they have to be patient. Every single one of them talked about how it's excruciatingly boring and painful to do that. But if you're in a tournament where you need a bite, that's what you have to resort to. And sometimes that's how you catch the biggest fish. So we have to be patient. So when we're giving the food boxes away, instead of, handing it to them and basically making it to where, I'm not saying this is what we're doing, but making it a condition for them to get this that they have to come to church. That's being way too aggressive. Like I said, I'm not saying that we're doing this, but planting a seed and giving them this, letting them know that we're there for them, that we want to help them in more ways than just food. Or just somebody that's driving by and see that we're giving food boxes away, and they're like, hey, I want to be a part of that. They're doing something good for the community. I want to contribute to that. That they seem like a good group of people. Being patient can be key. Now, in terms of examples that we can fish for people, maybe we can do a class on it or something later, but anybody have any ideas on examples of how we can fish for people? Using everything in our arsenal, every different bait, different ways that we can try. I know I'm putting you all on the spot, and this might be a little bit harder of a question than Danny normally asks. But maybe that's just something to think about, and let's come back to later.
Try to get in deeper conversations with people. The people you know, there's a lot of unsaved people we know. Try to get into deeper conversations with them.
Get into deeper conversations with people. I agree.
Sometimes
Invite,
Nights like that, there's great opportunities to invite people to.
invite people to men and ladies' night. I agree. Another thing for that might be varying the location. Some people, like Shannon and I know, they live 45 minutes away from Blountsville. And you try to get somebody to come out for a few hours. I mean, they might have kids and it's hard for them to be gone till 9 o'clock, but if it was in a different location, or like men's night where we went to Coleman, if it's something like that, maybe we can get people that are closer to that would have better access to it. And that's one key thing with fishing compared to hunting. Hunting, you go out there and you sit in one spot. You don't want to move because you'll spook the deer potentially. Fishing, you can go to whichever spot you want and you can be as careful as you can, but you can walk all the way around the bank. If you're in a boat, you just drive to a different spot. So mobility is a key to success in fishing. So going to different spots for ladies' night or men's night, that's something that we can do to potentially get more people involved. I'm sure there's countless other ways. I mean, part of this is not being restricted on how we approach this. And I mean, one thing thinking about, and I know it's not the best way, but we've talked about churches being kind of an entertainment service. Is that just a different way of them fishing? Them trying to get people. And sure, you might get the wrong people. They might come for entertainment instead of Christ, but maybe you can draw them in with entertainment and then get them to be devoted to Christ. Not saying that's what we should do, but we shouldn't be afraid of trying everything that we can.
Anything we can do, like VBS and things like that, to help the community with the kids and stuff, that can sometimes make a difference.
Vacation Bible School.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to be able to reach kids. And I mean, if they make a friend and all, they would possibly want to come to church a lot more often, and that might get others involved too. So, this one a little shorter, but I do want to leave you with this thought. In fishing, there's a situation that happens to everyone, whether you're a professional, amateur, anywhere in between. You're going to be in the situation where you're fishing, you get a bite, you set the hook, you're reeling, the fish is fighting, but you're still reeling, you're getting it close, it's so close, it's right there, about to grab it, and it spits out the hook. It comes off, it swims away. Happens to professional fishermen, and in terms of fishing for people to come to Christ, I'm sure it happened to the disciples, Jesus even. How many times did he preach to somebody and not everyone was receptive? Happened to the disciples, happened to people in the early church, numerous times, countless times probably. It's going to happen. It's going to happen again and again and again. The most important thing, the key thing to remember though, is that when you lose a fish, when it gets off the hook, you have to cast out again. Go searching for the next fish. Thank you.